Oppong-Asare.
Thank you, Mr Stringer. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I thank my right honourable friend, the member for Goa, for putting this important debate forward. It's really important that we continue to support key workers at a time when they have all supported us through this difficult time throughout the whole country. My honourable friend spoke about a number of things, but I just wanted to touch upon the point where she mentioned the Welsh Government tried to award care homes and the Chancellor tried to tax them. And she mentioned about the value for money for taxpayers. And I agree with her point in that public sectors pay their taxes too. And so they do deserve to be treated really fairly. I want to thank everybody that has spoken in this debate to support key workers in their constituencies. I have to say, I am really disappointed that not a single Tory MP has turned up to speak on this debate. It's so important that we speak for those individuals that we seek to represent, and the fact that not a single Tory MP has turned up speaks volumes on this matter. There has certainly been a number of moving stories and passionate stories, contributions from a number of colleagues from across the room, highlighting the strength and passion of key workers across the country. The Honourable Member for Hayes and Harlington talked about the 10 years of pay freeze. People are hurting. And I wanted to echo his point where he mentioned that the Minister should get back to the round table with unions to negotiate a decent pay rise. And I really hope the Minister does take that forward. The Honourable Member for Bottle and Jarrow and Newport West, like many others, talked about how it was so important that the public sector get a pay rise. And the Honourable Member for Liverpool, Wavertree and Enfield talked about their direct experience of working in local government. And the Honourable Member for Enfield also talked about how he's been delivering food parcels. One of the things I also wanted to mention is also the Honourable Member for Liverpool, Wavertree and Stockport talked about this. The civil service, the pressures that civil servants are facing at the moment, and recommendation was made to move towards a national infrastructure to the recovery. It would be interesting to hear what the Minister says on that point. And also the Honourable Member for Easington and City of Durham talked about prison officers being treated with respect. I just want to say, completely echo those comments. I've got 3 prisons in my constituency, and I know the amount of pressures that they are facing right now. The Honourable Member for Nottingham South rightly pointed out that we're going to see council tax going up, and obviously this is going to impact key workers whose salaries have been frozen for some time. And how is this sustainable? And the Honourable Member for York Central talked about the cuts to pensions and how essentially the story is repeating itself, and that the government hasn't really addressed the economic crisis, and the 10p an hour increase is an insult, and talked about the fact that the pay injustice has impacted women, ethnic minorities and disabled people. I just want to say that freezing the public sector pay was one of the first actions actually put by the coalition government in 2010. And this has been followed by a 6-year pay gap of 1%. And let me say that again, a 6-year pay gap of 1%. Over the past decade, NHS workers have lost an average of 15% of their wages as their salaries have failed to rise in line with inflation. And just on Friday, I heard from RCM members who talked about the impact this was having on them mentally and the amount of pressures they're under. The average civil servant on a salary of £26,000 is now worse off by £2,110 across a year. And as colleagues have mentioned, the Chancellor announced in his spending review that 2.1 million public sector workers will be earning less than 24,000 will receive a minimum of 250 increase because of an inflation. A 250 pay increase will result in terms of a pay cut for any public sector worker earning less than 18,000. Once again, the government has just shown how much they value key workers by hiding a pay cut at the heart of their false promises. Young people in my constituency... Yes.
If the honourable gentleman had been here at the beginning, he would have heard me explain that only honourable members can take part in the debate if they're here at the beginning, whether it's for an intervention or to make a speech. Bina Oppong-Asare.
Okay. The Chancellor announced in his spending review that, young people in my constituency of Erith and Thamesmead have been submitting portraits of key workers as part of my Christmas card competition. I asked them to write why the key worker they have drawn means so much to them. One young person said to me, "I've chosen to draw many different key workers. They've been pushing themselves every day so they can help us. They have put us first and we should be indebted to them." Does the Minister agree that we are indebted to key workers given their hard work and sacrifice during this pandemic? Freezing pay for public sector workers is not only insulting, it is irresponsible. I am curious to know if the Minister has given due regard to the impacts this pay freeze will have. Has the Minister read the reports by the TUC which found that public sector pay increases could boost GDPR significantly? And this is something that has been echoed by a number of members in this debate. Does the Minister recognise that imposing real-term pay cut when 1.8 million key workers already earning less than the real living wage risked driving thousands into poverty? Can the Minister explain how she plans to tackle the shortage of over 80,000 NHS and care sector jobs at the same time as freezing public sector pay? Over 1 million key workers face a real terms pay cut next year. That is 1,250,000 police officers, 500,000 teachers, 300,000 service staff, 125,000 armed forces personnel. The Chancellor has made it clear that he has no intention of backing our public sector workers by failing to reaffirm the government's manifesto commitment to ensure teachers' starting salaries reach £30,000 by 2022. Cutting universal credit and giving the go-ahead for council tax rises and pushing more people into poverty, council tax rises in the middle of a pandemic, and making poor spending decisions that threaten to push our economy and public services to breaking point. I want to conclude by quoting my honourable friend, the member for Goa. Public sectors aren't asking a lot. They just want their contributions to be recognised, and claps don't pay the bills. Thank you.